When should I upgrade my graphics card? Hell, when should I upgrade any component in my PC? This is a common question for a lot of PC gamers. Anyone that wants to stay on top of the performance curve, anyone that's worried about new games coming out and the shit just might not run on your rig. So, when do we upgrade? Hopefully I'll be able to answer at least some of that question today in this video, but I highly doubt we're going to get to all of it. Welcome to a case study of Nvidia, kinda, and how it applies to me, at least. So, if you're new to the channel, or if you're even a returning subscriber, this is definitely not the normal kind of video I would do, but I've had the idea for doing this for quite some time, actually. So I guess I'll just start with my story, how it pertains to this topic, and why I thought it was relevant, why I wanted to make this video. In the background, there should be some pretty gameplay provided, so, you know, you all have something to watch while you listen to me droning on. That is, if you stay for that long. So, about me. I bought the GTX 970 about 2 weeks after it released. I would have bought it the day of, but they sold out everywhere. So this was, you know, mid to late September of 2014. I was currently running that same card up until yesterday. So, a company that was 16 gigs of RAM, an i7 2600K, older motherboard, it's Sandy Bridge, yada yada, still kicks absolute ass, it's overclocked, water cooled, all that good stuff, so there's no bottleneck there, don't have to worry about that. However, I wanted some more game performance. I wanted some higher frame rates, possibly upgrade to resolution, for the games that I was playing now, and I wanted to have that extra wiggle room for any new up-and-coming AAA titles that I may pick up that are inevitably going to be harder to run than those in the past. So, the 970, absolute beast of the card for what it is. Of course, 8 months later, the R9 390 came out with an insanely large 8GB VRAM capacity, which blew, you know, 4 gigs minus half a gig that's slow out of the water, and plus, you know, they trade back and forth on both price and performance depending on what model. But for the time when I picked this card up, absolute beast. Still serving me very well to this day if all I did was 1080p 60 applications. However, with some of the games I'm running now, such as The Witcher 3, that was modded, and I wanted to run it at a consistent 60 at least, it just wasn't cutting it. So really, I had two options. I could say, you know, I'm already running 970. Let me just go out to Best Buy, pick up another reference cooler version, which is what I was running, preferably on sale like I got this one, and SLI it. Now, for those of you that aren't completely aware, SLI does not offer 100% scaling. Matter of fact, even Crossfire doesn't add 100% scaling. In the best games, such as the Tomb Raider games, they are GPU, like, optimized beyond belief. They're amazing. So you can get almost 100% scaling in those games. You can kiss that fucking thought goodbye about everything else, though. So, really, what it would do is give me anywhere between 50 to 75% higher frame rates. I would not gain anything in VRAM capacity, because with DX11 games, the frame buffer is cloned because of how they render. Basically, one GPU renders the odd frames, one renders the even frames, so it doesn't work out that way. But more importantly, not all games offer SLI in the first place, and the ones that don't, it's just a pain in the ass to get it to work, to make your own profile, and it's just not worth it in the long run. If you're already topped out and have, say, a Titan X, and you need more performance, guess what? You're fucked. You have to get a Titan X, another one to accompany it. So, for me, that option didn't really make a lot of sense. So, enter the GTX 980 Ti. Happened to pick up that card yesterday. Wasn't even planning on going to upgrade until the new round of cards came out, which is Pascal. But, I got it for $100 less than retail. So, I paid $550 for it. And it was still new in packaging. I have it registered, everything. So I paid pretty much what a 980 would cost for its bigger, beefier, cut-down Titan X big brother. So, in that case, it was worth it to me to not wait. So the question is, did I make a good decision? or did I blow some cash that I should have waited on later on? And you know, we're constantly caught in this dilemma with all of our PC components. Any type of technology that changes and updates fast. Should I upgrade my CPU next? Like, you know, I have an older i7 2600K. It's at this point 4 generations behind. It will turn 5 years old this year, but it's not bottlenecking anything else in my system. So I move on to the next bottleneck. Oh, look at that. It was my GPU. That's why I decided to upgrade. Question is, would I have been better off waiting? And the only way to really answer that question, at least for now, is to look how, excuse me, is to look how cards were handled in the past, how their pricing and how their performance increases happened in the past. So I'm just going to look at the Nvidia side. If you're Team Red, all these same relationships will pretty much be present. It just, you know, there's a couple nuances with the X's being slightly higher versions and yada yada, but you could pretty much apply the same logic to hell anything really. But right now we're looking specifically at GPUs on the Nvidia side. So hopefully looking in the past will tell us or give us a good prediction for what will happen in the future. So let's start with the GTX 600 series. We could go a whole lot further back. We could look at the Fermi. We could start anywhere, but I think this is a good place to start. Now, I'm going to be looking at anywhere from the 80 cards down to the lower-end gaming cards, to like the 50. I'm going to exclude the dual GPU 90 versions, like the 590, 690, Titan Z, as well as the Titan cards, such as the Titan, Titan Black, and Titan X, because let's be honest, if you're buying those cards, you probably don't give a flying fuck about price or performance in the first place. You would not, you know, when you're spending $1,000 to $3,000 on a single component of your system, you probably don't give a shit. So we're not even going to consider those. So let's start with the GTX 600 series. So looking at the 680, 670, 660, and 650. There's some TIs in there. We're not going to worry about that for now. So, this series of cards came out, and within a couple years, the GTX 700 series comes out, as you know, the naming scheme would imply. But Nvidia is not very good with sometimes with numbering. They don't like the 3s and 8s for whatever reason in the GTX series, but whatever. So, basically, what happens is if you want to do a comparison between this generation of cards, say you're looking at the GTX 700, and you want to say, if I bought this card, what would be its equivalent card last generation? If I wanted to get the same performance now as I did last generation, what card would I buy? And this is an interesting case between the 600 and 700 because they are actually both Kepler architecture. So what they did is they rebadged the 680 to become a 770. They rebadged the 670 to become the 760. See, this is a fucking tongue twister here. So basically, all the performances of the cards were equal to the series above it. So basically, the old 680 performed pretty much the same as the new 770. Now, of course, the 770, there was you know, you get some 4 GB VRAM versions. I think you could in the 680 too. But you know, there was a couple, you know, clock speed differences, yada yada. But if you look at it on paper, they're within about 5%, give or take. And same thing going down the line. Like the 750 was a new card, I'm fairly certain, and you know, it didn't line up perfectly. But basically what happens is all of the higher series gets shifted down one, and then we get the 780. So that trumps everything. That is like, you know, basically moves up like a stair step. If it doesn't make sense to go from the 680 to the 770 because you already have basically the equivalent card. Matter of fact, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to go from the 680 to the 780 because of how much more that card costed versus what you're getting to get, you know, the performance gains you're getting out of it. So really, if you had anywhere in this, you know, top 3 cards here, it really didn't make a whole lot of sense to upgrade to the next generation. Now let's take a look on the next one. So after the 700 series, we have the 900 series Maxwell cards, which came out beginning around September of 2014. Don't ask me why they skipped the 800. That was a mobile GPU set only. Nvidia does what the fuck it wants to with naming. We can see a similar trend here. Now, this is a whole new architecture. They didn't rebadge shit, so you can't compare apples to apples. However, kind of same thing applies if you look at benchmarks. The 780 performs pretty much the same as the 970, albeit with 1 gig of VRAM less or half a gig less of fast RAM. The 770 performs around a little bit better than the 960, a little bit worse in some applications, so they're about on par. And then the 980 tops them all, so you get another stair step. Now, interestingly enough, what we didn't look at in the 700 series was the 780 Ti, that it comes above the 780. So that is actually a neck down Titan Black, more or less. It is pretty much on par with the 980 as well. So once again, you get that stair step effect where the lower series becomes the equivalent of last gen's higher series. Start to see a pattern, aren't we? So, what can we expect for next generation? Well, we should actually look at what happened around 2015. So the Titan X comes out in March 2015, which is great for those people who want to spend more money on their GPU than what most people's entire computer rigs cost. But the killer was the neck down 980 Ti that came out a few months later, so around June, July-ish. Basically, it's a Titan X with a few less shader units, I think a few less ROPs, and cut down to 6 gigabytes of VRAM. So once again, stair step. Now this card comes in at about $100 to $150 more expensive than its little brother, the 980. You get about a time and a half of the performance of the 970, anywhere from time and a half to 75% more, just depends. And at its price point, it is far more competitive than, say, the Titan X, which is exactly why I'm not including it. So what can we expect from next generation Pascal cards? Well, if I was a betting man, I bet we could follow the same infographic. I would say that the 980 Ti is going to perform almost identically to the new whatever 80. I'm hoping it's like 1080 or capital X80. That would look cool. Probably the new 80 card, just like its predecessors, will maybe feature a little bit more VRAM, probably be a little bit more efficient, perhaps even cost a little bit less than the Ti before it. But probably be just a little bit more in price-wise than the regular 80 card. So I would say that compared to a $500 to $550 980, the new X80 or 1080 is going to cost anywhere from $575 all the way up to $600. Who knows? But just looking at the price history, that's probably my guess. And you can go down the line with the X70, the X60, and then probably a new X80 Ti or whatever they're going to call it then will be the new king of the gaming cards. So, was I better off buying the 980 Ti now or waiting for its equivalent card later? Well, I couldn't have beat the 980 Ti with a single card until the new Ti comes out. That probably wouldn't have been for another year anyway. If I wanted to match its performance, roughly, perhaps there would be a few new shiny bells on the new version, but I would have to go for the 80 of the next generation, which at least will take 6 months for it to come out. Not as bad of a wait, but still, it's a wait. So, did it really make sense for me to upgrade from a 70 to an 80 Ti in the same generation? Well, I will let the gameplay that's been playing speak for itself. To me, fuck yeah, it was. Especially considering I only paid $550. Even if I had paid full retail price and didn't get a free game with it or anything, it would still have been worth it to me. Because the price to performance ratio doesn't tell the entire story. You also have to look at opportunity cost. I mean, basically I'm getting the same performance that I would have paid for later, now, 6 months in advance, at the cost of possibly a couple less features that, let's be honest, I'm not going to miss them. And coming in at less money, I think I made out alright. There are people to this day that are still rocking 780s, 780 Ti's. Some people that are rocking 680s that don't mind to turn down a few minor graphical assets, and they're completely happy. At the end of the day, if you splurge and get something high quality, it'll last you for a while. GPUs are a highly volatile technology that are constantly changing, so you cannot future-proof. But what I am saying is if you get something that is kick-ass now, technology is not moving so fast that the next day you'll be regretting your purchase. It's that simple. So did I make the right financial decision? I think I did. And I think you could apply the same logic to the AMD side. You know, if you bought an R9 290 last generation, and was, you know, did you think, oh, fuck, I'm missing out so much on the 390 or the 390X? Probably not. If you bought the R9 295X2, if you're a real baller, yeah, you got some cut down VRAM, but it still performs like a fucking beast. So guarantee you're not missing too much out on the new Fury X. Of course, all of this is up to the individual consumer, and it's all situational. Even the same consumer will not always, you know, apply the same logic to every scenario. Look at myself. When I was first doing this complete system rebuild, I was thinking, do I get a, you know, I was right on the verge of when the Maxwell's cards were coming out. I knew I was going to go Team Nvidia. So do I get a 770 or 780 now, or do I wait a little bit? I did wait a little bit, and I saw that the 970s were going to perform a little bit better than the 780s probably, come out at a far lower cost, higher efficiency, all things that spelled good news to me. So I waited it out and got me one. For this generation, it's quite a bit further away. I figured, fuck it, why not now? Because that'll be 6 months of time that I will put enjoyment into it. That will make the money back for me. So what should you do is the question if you feel like you're in need of an upgrade. Let's say you just need an upgrade, and that's it. Say you've got a system and you're just not as happy with the frame rates as you want to be. So if you're rocking, let's say, a GTX, let's say 770, 760, something around there. It's not this generation of card, and it's not the top tier flagship. What do? You got at least 6 months till the next cards come out. Go ahead and upgrade. If you got the cash now, get the best card that you can comfortably afford right now. Because, let's face it, you're going to be using it all those 6 months. I doubt you're going to have too much buyer's remorse. And if you are absolutely heartbroken about what comes out next, you can take a little bit of loss and sell it used. Guarantee it, you can. But in all likelihood, if you bought a 980 Ti, or 970 now, upgrading from a lower end previous generation card, you're not going to be heartsick next time around. Now, let's say we were a month away from release of the new cards, or 2 months, and you had the same thing. Yeah, it probably makes sense to wait it out. It's only 30 days. It's only 60 to 30, 30, 60 days. Not a big deal. Then it would not make sense unless you just get a killer sale on a card that's about to turn old news. That's when it would make sense. So, very situational, even if someone is just upgrading from, not the newest tech right now. What if you're buying brand new? Total system rebuild, starting from scratch, never done this shit before at all. So let's say right now, we're 6 months from Pascal, at least. I would recommend the same thing. Buy the best GPU you can comfortably afford. The higher you go, the better, if you can't afford that. And in some ways, the lower you go, you may be better off later on. What I mean by that is, what if you just spend $150, say, on a GTX 950, and you're not, doing too much crazy shit. You're just playing like CSGO or League of Legends. And then when the new cards come out, you've only spent $150. You could sell that for, $75, $80, get most of that cash back, and then put it onto something else that you've been saving up for. That's a pretty good deal. If you buy a 970, 980 now, you're going to lose probably a greater percentage of that cash, and if you try to resell it, and you're not going to be able to spend as much later on. It depends. It just depends. Once again, do you want the newest, best shit now, or do you want to wait later? My recommendation for around this time period, just buy the best you can comfortably afford. You're not going to be, you're not going to be left wanting. I highly doubt it. And like I said earlier, you could probably apply the same thing to the AMD side. Their Polaris GPUs will be out eventually, but if you buy a 390 or a 380 or 380X, I highly doubt that you're going to feel wanting. Or especially if you buy a Fury or Fury X with 4 gigs of high bandwidth memory, I highly doubt you're going to really feel left out next generation. So the moral of the story is, don't try to future-proof shit that cannot be future-proofed. There are some things on your computer that you should buy for long-term. There are some things on your car or your house or anything that you should plan for long-term, because they are components that will last that long, that are designed to last a long time, and that don't change that often anyway. So say on your computer, buy a good case, buy a high-quality power supply at a little bit higher wattage than you think you need. Really, that's all that you can future-proof. Now, me, I can get by with lower amounts of storage. I don't have that much shit. All my music and stuff's on one place. I got, not that many games installed, and then I got, backup drive for footage and stuff. So, me, I don't need an SSD. Some people do. Some people want to upgrade their storage every 2 years. I'm not that person. But let's say you are. In that case, you cannot future-proof your storage, your motherboard, CPU, RAM, GPU, CPU cooler. All these things are going to be outdated eventually. However, if you buy high quality components now in that price to performance sweet spot, you're not going to be left wanting. And I guarantee you it will last far longer than when you will be able to afford to replace them, or when you get tired of dealing with it. So, whatever you're doing, buy the best you can afford now, and you will not feel wanting. Guarantee you. I have every intention of seeing the Pascal release come and go as I'm waving and enjoying my 980 Ti at 1440p or 1080p at insanely high refresh rates and insanely high graphical quality. Yeah, I'll probably miss out on HBM2 memory on probably only their flagship cards. I might miss out on asynchronous compute if they do actually update their new cards for that. So I'll probably see a little bit less DX12 performance in this current card. But that's fine with me. That's the price you pay. And for me, I paid $100 less in actual monetary value, so that helps a lot. That's a good incentive. So at the end of the day, buy what you can afford. Buy good shit, and you will have spent your money wisely. End of story. So I hope this maybe put a new perspective out there for people that haven't really thought about it, or help someone make a decision on what they're going to buy. And if you think I'm a dumbass for buying the 980 Ti now, tell me below. Tell me to go fuck myself. I have no idea what I'm talking about. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you maybe in more videos like this. If you like it, we'll see. Au revoir.